Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to another episode of Dinner Guide. I am your host, Chef Andy, and today we're going to be working on something hearty, something beautiful, and as you can see from the array of ingredients, very, very tasty. I'm going to be showing you how to make or assemble your very own chicken wrap, and I'm going to be taking you through a simple and easy process of making a salad. So we're going to start off the show by introducing what we'll be working with today to give you an idea of what to expect. So from the very front, I've got about 200 grams of chicken breast. I've also got some 2 limes there, two halved limes. I'm going to be also using about a quarter cup of yogurt, 1 tomato, and 1 regular sized medium red onion. You're also going to require 1 large bell pepper. You're also going to need 1 gherkin, about 4 pieces of cherry tomato, some pickled chili, some mango chutney. You're also going to require some minced ginger and minced garlic, and some cumin powder. And last but not least, some lettuce for your salad, and some wraps that have already been done. And last but not least, some salt and pepper to taste, and some olive oil to cook with. I will remind you at this stage that we did actually do the wraps from scratch in a previous episode, so do check out our YouTube channel. You will actually be able to see how it's done from scratch. So without further ado, I'm going to give you this now opportunity to freshen yourselves up, and when we come back, we're gonna get cooking. See you in a little while. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning in. I'm going to start by doing our filling for wrap. Very, very simple filling for this particular wrap. We're going to just begin by cutting our chicken into some strips. So as I mentioned, I'm using chicken breast for this recipe. Do feel free to actually use some chicken thigh. It does actually save you a bit of cost, and you may not actually tell the difference. So let's proceed to slice up our chicken. So I'm going to be slicing that into some very thin strips. Remember, you are making a wrap, which means you do want to really flash fry your chicken really quickly. Give it a bit of color in a hot pan, and then proceed to assemble everything else. So we're going to proceed to cut our chicken breast into strips, making sure, of course, that they're as thin as possible, and they're all of even thickness to allow for an even cooking period. So proceed to add your second piece. Now you can also alternate chicken for this recipe and use some fish. It will also do really well as a filling. You can also do some beef. You could get some beef fillet or rump beef. You can cut that into strips as I just did, fry it really quickly. It will actually be succulent and not a bad option for a filling. So just to finish us off, I'm going to discard the plate now. Always very handy to keep your hands clean when working with meat. And now we're going to proceed to cook that really quickly in a hot pan. Begin by adding a nice generous drizzle of olive oil, and move your pan around now, making sure to coat all the bottom of the pan, just to give that just a few seconds. Remember, you really want your pan to be quite hot, so definitely take a bit of time to actually allow for the pan to really get hot. You should actually be able to see just a bit of smoke coming from the pan, and that should be your cue to begin to fry everything together. Another thing also to mention, remember the ingredients I'm using for my filling are just for display. There are very many other options of ingredients you can incorporate. I'm going to be using some beautifully colorful ones so that you can actually be able to see the effect once you're done doing your wrap. Another thing also to mention, I'm using a very different colored kind of lettuce. As you can see, you're not limited to using iceberg lettuce as well, or any particular lettuce that you prefer. It will not make so much of a difference. So now our pan is nice and hot. We're going to proceed to add our chicken. And then give your pan a toss. Just proceed to separate the chicken strips with your tongue. Be sure to place those, or rather to spread them out nice and flat on the pan. This is to make sure that you get a nice, beautiful, even coloring. Just before we proceed, we're going to proceed to turn our board around. Just proceed to toss your pan. It should actually start to color. Remember, we are frying this at very high heat. And you can actually also do this very, very easily by the use of a wok. So if you do possess a wok at home, don't feel shy of using it. It will actually give you a nicer, beautiful color, and it actually really saves you with time. So just to toss out once more. And for this, you should always make sure to actually cook it right through until it's done. Remember, there is a very, very high chance of poisoning yourself with unproperly cooked chicken. So always make sure to follow the designations given to you for the recipe. So for this particular recipe, we're going to be tossing and frying for anywhere between 8 to 10 minutes at high heat. While that continues, we're going to proceed to season very lightly with a bit of salt. And you can also crush in some black peppercorns. Proceed to toss that once more. Now as that proceeds, we are going to proceed to chop up some onions. This we are going to be adding to the pan. So very, very simply begin by halving an onion. Make sure to take the stem ends off completely. And you're going to just slice your onion in that particular format. Proceed to do the rest for the other half. Remember, very, very handy to use a sharp knife. It will always save you the effort when you're chopping. So proceed to add your onion to the pan. Follow that up by adding some garlic. About a teaspoon of some minced ginger. And of course some cumin powder. Proceed to toss that, making sure to get everything mixed together very, very nicely. Right, while that continues, we're going to allow that to continue and cook until it's properly cooked through. So this will be your call to actually reduce your temperature completely. The pan should actually be a little dry at this stage. So don't be shy of adding just a bit of olive oil. It will also aid in really getting a nice beautiful color with the onions. Proceed to toss some more. And using your tongue, spread out your chicken on the pan. And allow for that to continue cooking until it's done. Now while that continues, we're going to start preparing some of the other ingredients which we'll be using for your filling. So begin by grabbing a plate. Very simply begin by coring off the stem end of your tomato and just lift that off and discard, and proceed to slice your tomato very thin. So I'm using a medium-sized tomato for this particular recipe. Proceed to slice very thinly until the very end, and be sure to discard the tail bits. So for the tomatoes, we're going to quickly just spread them on the counter, as you can see. And very handy as well when making a salad, always handy to season your ingredients. So for the tomatoes, very good pointer to always season them with a bit of salt. The salt will actually bring out the sweetness of the tomatoes, and it will actually improve that pleasant bland taste that they come with. So very simply proceed to move your tomatoes to one side of the plate. Next up, proceed to also chop up your bell pepper. Very handy as well. Never forget to wipe out that excess salt on your board. It may actually carry through every other ingredient, making everything extremely salty, so be sure to give it a wipe. Now just to bring your attention back to the chicken, remember to keep tossing it through just to make sure you get a nice even color, and always spread your ingredients out on the pan to allow for an even color right through to the end. Now next up, the pepper. So begin by holding your pepper to the side and slicing from the top where the stem end is. Proceed to slice while rotating your pepper really slowly, and just begin by taking off the top end. Proceed to use a smaller knife to cut through, or rather to cut along the sides of the pepper, taking out that bitter core. That should be very easy for you to take out, and also allow you to discard the seeds. Always very handy to also just knock it over the top. That should allow for you to take out any other seeds in there, and proceed to slice your pepper very thinly. Of course, making sure to take out any of that white membrane before you begin to chop. Remember, they do actually carry a very unpleasant bitterness, which you might want to get rid of at this stage. Proceed to clean your pepper out, making sure to do so for every single piece. And now proceed to slice that very thin. Also, another trick that may even help you quite a bit when slicing peppers, I like to turn them over with the skin up and press them onto the board. That should allow for you to have a little better grip to actually slice really easily. Proceed to do the same for the rest of your pepper. Doing the same thing until the very end. You can move those onto your plate as well, right next to your tomatoes. Next up, we're going to proceed to slice some of these beautiful cherry tomatoes, which you're going to be using to garnish your salad. and move those onto your plate as well. And now, just to check on your chicken, one quick final toss, and you can actually turn the heat down completely. Your chicken is now fully cooked, so proceed to move that to a plate to allow it to avoid it from cooking any further and becoming too dry. So your chicken's done. Now this is ready to go into your wrap. But as we continue to narrow down towards the end of that preparation, just to finish off the ingredients, also proceed to grab your gherkins and chop that or slice that very, very thinly, longest strips possible. Place those right on the plate. And now, as you can see, you're almost close to the last and final process, which is basically the assembly. I will not jump into that particular state at this stage. I will actually allow you for a bit of a few minutes to just refresh and just get your notes together. And when we come back, we're going to proceed to plate this very, very simple dish, and I'll show you how to assemble that very simple salad. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've just tuned in and missed out on the introduction and the second part of the show, we've been doing some beautiful chicken there. We cut it into strips, cooked it down, added a bit of onion and some cumin powder, and seasoned it lastly. But now we're going to get to the last and final stage where we're going to begin to assemble our chicken wrap. So very, very simply, as I mentioned earlier, you can actually be able to make a lot of different spreads or fillings for your particular wrap. I'm only going to be showing you one that is simple to us here at the studios. So very, very simply, as you can see, as I mentioned, we also have one wrap that we had made earlier in the show. And to that, you will proceed to spread out a bit of some yogurt. So I'm using plain yogurt for this recipe. About 2.5 teaspoons should be okay. And next up, proceed to add your mango chutney. And using your spoon, proceed to work your plate around, beginning first by mixing the chutney and the yogurt. This you can be able to do right over your wrap. It doesn't actually hurt at all. And then proceed to spread it out, leaving almost half an inch off the edges, just to allow you to be able to fold. Right, so chutney done. Right, once complete, proceed to add some of your other ingredients for your filling. So I'm going to start by adding some red bell pepper. And this always handy to actually just align everything in one line so that you can actually be able to get a taste of all your ingredients on each bite. Right, peppers in, proceed to also add your gherkins. Also add your poppadoms, your pickled peppers, sorry for that. Add your pickled peppers, of course making sure not to include the juices. And next up, proceed to add just a few leaves of lettuce. This will actually help to break the color. So just lay them one over the other. So about 4 to 5 pieces should actually do. or rather just one long strip layered in lettuce. That should be more than enough. And now to add your chicken. So proceed to give it a quick mix before adding it in. Once done, proceed to layer your chicken right next to your vegetables, also assuming a very straight line while doing so. And now all you're going to do is proceed to give that a wrap, but very handy to actually have some toothpicks to be able to hold everything together. So begin by grabbing some toothpicks. Remember, this is just an additional tip. You can actually do it without, but since I have a few of this around, I will actually use them to my advantage. So very simply, once your filling is in, beginning from the side closest to you, or rather the side with the filling closest to you, proceed to lift while folding right over your mixture and go almost about 2/3 all the way in. Begin to just tuck everything back with your index finger, and very simply begin to squeeze everything to that one side of your wrap, making sure to tuck all your ingredients underneath the fold, and then proceed to roll all the way to the end, making sure to tuck that flap right in there. And now all you need to do is put one of the toothpicks about 1/3 way in from one end and 1/3 way in from the other. Proceed to move that onto your board, and very simply diagonally just slice right through your wrap, being very gentle not to break your setup. And you can now proceed to remove your toothpicks. Remember, you don't want this to go all the way to the table. They may not be visible, and you may actually have to mention it to your guests. So just take the advantage of removing them in advance, and very simply proceed to present your wrap in that very simple format. So just going to slide that to the side, and up next we're going to quickly assemble a salad. So very simply add your lettuce leaves in a big bowl. Add your cherry tomatoes and proceed to squeeze some of your lime in there. Very handy to also use a sieve. It will help you to avoid adding your seeds into your mixture. So squeeze in just 1/2 of the lime. It should be enough for one portion. Discard the rest. Very handy as well to have a bit of salt to season. Some black peppercorns freshly crushed. And proceed to grab a pair of tongs and begin to toss everything together in your bowl. Of course, adding just a small dollop of olive oil. That will actually give it quite a bit of a visual appearance. So mix through. As simple as that. And proceed to grab a separate plate where you're basically going to start assembling your salad. So very simply begin right in the middle and proceed to lay your slices in a circular motion, starting at one end and going right around the sides, one slice at a time, of course. Once you get that far, just scoop out the peppers that are still on the plate. And now just proceed to add all the other ingredients. So I'm going to start by building up a little bit of height with the lettuce. very handy also to remember you can actually use vinaigrette for this recipe, and you can actually also make one at home. You can check out our previous episodes on lunch guide or dinner guide. You should actually be able to find some good tips on dressing making. So once you're done, begin now to plate your cherry tomatoes. Of course, as always build your salad working in one particular motion, making sure to get a nice beautiful symmetry as you plate. And probably just a few pieces right over the top. Simple as that. And once you're done, don't discard your juice, just drizzle that right over the top. And that is as easy as it is to make a simple salad and actually make your own wrap. I'm just going to place that right over the top there so that you can be able to get a simple idea of actually plating. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my own version of chicken chapati wrap with a veggie salad. As always, I always recommend you to actually check out our Facebook page. Do leave your comments, inquiries, or any particular comments pertaining the show. You can also check out our YouTube videos. There's plenty for you to see and plenty for you to learn. But from this end, I am done for today. I'm going to actually go and enjoy this beautiful dish. But until the next episode, keep cooking, keep sharing your comments, and see you soon.